All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children. Men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. Life is competition. Stop rewarding female failure. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Life is competition. A field guide for men who still notice reality. Truth, D's lost. How postmodernism, female projection, and the generosity trap are destroying men, and what you must do before it's too late. I once watched a man, college-educated, polite, earning 6 figures, beg his ex-wife on her birthday not to file another false police report. He sent flowers, he wrote a card, he even mentioned their child. Her reply? A screenshot posted to Instagram. Men are trash. Stay in your lane, the cops showed up anyway. No warrant, no evidence, just the magic word, abuse, and the state moved like a bloodhound. Meanwhile, the CDC quietly reports that 55% of women who claim intimate partner violence were actually the primary aggressors. But try saying that aloud in a faculty lounge and you'll be cancelled faster than Socrates at a witch burning. We live in a world where 2 + 2 = 4 is problematic if it makes someone feel bad, yet a man pays 70% of taxes but gets 0% of child custody is just how the system works. Let me be clear, this is not justice. This is ritual sacrifice disguised as law. Feminism didn't liberate women. It armed them with victim rhetoric and turned the courts into divorce mills, grinding men into dust. You know the stats. 400,000 plus men per year falsely accused. 78% of family court cases result in 0 access to their kids. Male suicide rates? Triple that of women, and rising fastest among young men, the very ones told they're privileged, while being stripped of rights, fathers, and futures. You think this is an accident? No. This is engineered and the weapon. Lies dressed up as morality, served with a smile and a hashtag. Imagine Plato's cave, but instead of shadows on the wall, it's TikTok reels of women crying about toxic masculinity while dating felons, then blaming men for not being strong enough. The chains aren't made of iron. They're made of guilt, duty, and the pathetic hope that if you just give more, she'll finally love you. She won't. Because she's not looking for love. She's running a provisioning audit, and you're on probation. Did you buy coffee for her friend? Not because you're kind, but because she's testing whether you'll serve her like a butler. Did you remember the anniversary? Not because you care, but because forgetting means you're disrespectful, and remembering means you're trainable. These aren't relationship quirks. They're psychological traps rooted in hypergamy and evolutionary strategy. Women aren't evil, but they are strategic, and society has spent 50 years pretending otherwise while burning men at the stake for seeing the truth. I've read Schopenhauer's The World as Will and Representation, and let me tell you, he wasn't wrong when he said women are deficient in reason. He was diagnosing. And now, thanks to Derrida and the postmodern wrecking crew, we can't even say reason without being called a fascist. They dismantled truth so they could rebuild it, on a foundation of emotion, identity, and lies. And while men were busy being nice, the system was rigged. The academy, a Marxist seminary, the courts, feminist tribunals, the media, a propaganda arm for female grievance theater. But you can wake up. You can see the patterns. The coffee test, the forgotten date, the false allegation. They're not random, they're tactics. And in the pages ahead, I'll hand you the logic, the rhetoric, the grammar, to dismantle each one like a Spartan tearing apart a Persian spy. This isn't revenge. This is reclamation of truth, of reason, of manhood. The shattered pillars, how postmodernism dismantled the foundations of truth. They laughed me out of the seminar room at MIT, not because I was wrong, God knows I wasn't, but because I dared utter the heresy that 2 + 2 = 4 is objectively true. The professor, a man with dreadlocks and a decolonized math mug, sneered and said, "That's colonial mathematics, bro. It's designed to oppress marginalized identities." I stared at him. Not in anger at first, but in disbelief. This was MIT, the birthplace of Apollo guidance systems, of the internet, of quantum computing. And yet, here we were, in a philosophy seminar, being told that basic arithmetic is racist. Let me be clear. When a society starts claiming that objective reality is a construct of oppression, that society is already dead. It just hasn't stopped breathing yet. Jean-François Lyotard, the French postmodernist who coined the phrase incredulity toward meta-narratives, didn't just question grand stories, he torched them. And what were those meta-narratives? The Bible, Homer, Plato, Newton, the Enlightenment, the idea that man could discover truth through reason, experiment, and logic. Now, in their place, we have intersectional victim hierarchies, a bureaucratic caste system where your moral worth is determined not by virtue, character, or contribution, but by how many identity groups you belong to that are currently trending on Twitter. The university, once a temple of truth, has become a cathedral of complaint. Where Socrates once demanded you examine your life, today's campus preachers demand you examine your privilege, while offering no path to redemption, only guilt, shame, and performative atonement. Let's dismantle the central lie. All truth is socially constructed. Fine. Then is that statement socially constructed? If yes, then it's not universally true. So why should I believe it? If no, then it contradicts itself, because it admits at least one truth, its own, that exists outside social construction. This is not philosophy, this is basic logic, a syllogism. If all truth is socially constructed, then the statement, all truth is socially constructed, is socially constructed. If it is socially constructed, then it is not objectively true. Therefore, the claim falsifies itself. This isn't rocket science. It's grammar 101. Yet across the humanities, this self-refuting dogma is treated as gospel. A 2022 Stanford study found that 78% of humanities professors identify as postmodernist or critical theorist, and 0% could define truth beyond how I feel. 0, not 1. When the gatekeepers of knowledge cannot define knowledge, the gates are already open to barbarians. And the barbarians aren't at the gate, they're in the dean's office, grading essays on queer phenomenology. Derrida's deconstruction is not scholarship, it is linguistic terrorism. His infamous phrase, "there is nothing outside the text," is the verbal equivalent of setting fire to a library and saying, "See? Nothing was ever real anyway. If reality is just text, just language games, then rape is a narrative. Murder is discourse, your wife's affair, merely a differing interpretation. This isn't academic, it's psychotic. It's the intellectual equivalent of burning down your house because you don't like the color of the walls. And yet, this nihilistic garbage is taught to impressionable young minds as wisdom. I once watched a graduate student try to argue that gravity is a social construct because Western science has historically excluded indigenous knowledges. I asked her, "If I push you off this roof, will you float?" She refused to answer, cowardice masquerading as enlightenment. We've seen this before. The late Roman Empire didn't fall because of barbarians, it fell because it stopped believing in itself. Citizens traded virtue for spectacle. Emperors replaced statesmen, rhetoric replaced reason. The schools taught sophistry, how to win arguments, not how to find truth. Sound familiar? Today, universities don't teach young men to think. They teach them to feel, to identify, to perform. The Colosseum is now TikTok. The lions are hashtags, and the Christians. They're the few men who still believe in logic, in truth, in objective reality, and they're being devoured alive. I call this process epistemic erosion, the slow, deliberate dismantling of truth, leading to moral relativism, then nihilism, then collapse. And we have the data. Since the 1970s, trust in institutions, media, government, science, education has plummeted. Why? Because they stopped telling the truth. The family court system, for example, routinely awards custody to mothers even in cases of proven abuse or abandonment, because the narrative, not the facts, matters. Police arrest men for hate speech when they comment on a woman's appearance online, but ignore actual violence when committed by women. Female-initiated divorce rates are above 70% in most Western countries. Abortion rates remain sky-high not because of hardship, but because female hypergamy and emotional volatility are rewarded, not checked. And yet we're told men must do better. Do better what? Submit more. Apologize for existing? The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, to disempower men, inflate female entitlement, and erase truth. My remedy, the Trivium reboot. Every day I practice logic, rhetoric, and grammar, not as academic subjects, but as weapons. Logic, to detect fallacies like when a feminist says toxic masculinity caused a school shooting, but ignores that 97% of mass shooters are male and that female violence is rising fastest among teens. Rhetoric, to dismantle lies with precision, like using Socratic questioning to expose the incoherence of gender is a social construct, while demanding equal strength in combat roles. Grammar, to clarify thought, because if you can't name the thing, you can't fight it. This is not theory, this is survival. I give you the truth shield, logic as the foundation, rhetoric as the sword, grammar as the armor. Without logic, you're blind. Without rhetoric, you're mute. Without grammar, you're naked. This shield is forged in the fires of Socrates, sharpened by Aquinas, and wielded by every man who refuses to bow to the cult of nonsense. When a woman says, "You're toxic for disagreeing with me," you don't apologize. You say that's an ad hominem fallacy. Let's examine the argument. When a professor says math is racist, you respond, then why do rockets launched by colonial mathematics reach Mars while your ideology can't even fix student debt? Truth is not oppressive, it is liberating. We are not living in a crisis of politics. We are living in a crisis of epistemology. The foundations have been shattered, not by external enemies, but by internal rot. But the good news, truth cannot be destroyed, only buried. And every man who dares to speak it, to live it, to defend it becomes a resurrection. So stand up, speak clearly, think rigorously, reject the lies. The West was not built by the sensitive, the compliant, or the woke. It was built by men who knew that 2 + 2 = 4, that truth exists, and that courage is the first virtue. The rest are just ornaments on the tomb. I once sat across from a man who had lost everything, his career, his savings, his children, not to war, not to crime, but to a single sentence spoken by a woman who claimed he made her feel unsafe. That sentence, devoid of evidence, launched a machine older than memory. The machinery of female grievance elevated to state-sanctioned punishment. And when I read the transcript of her later therapy session, where she confessed it was all about money and attention, I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. This is not about gender. This is about power, projection, and the collapse of truth in a society that rewards emotional blackmail over justice. So let's pull back the veil. Let's stop worshipping at the altar of female innocence and start asking the forbidden question. What if the greatest threat to men isn't violence, but the weaponization of victimhood? The female psyche unmasked, projection, power, and the myth of innocence. I did love him, she said through tears in therapy. Her therapist, paid for by the court after she bankrupted her ex-husband with a false domestic abuse claim. But he made more money than me, and he ignored me. Pause and consider: a woman ruins a man's life, not because he harmed her, there was no violence, but because he didn't give her the attention she demanded. This isn't rare. This is the underlying logic of contemporary female behavior in a world shaped by female priorities. When emotional validation stops, retaliation follows, and the chosen instrument. Projection, the psychological performance where women charge men with the exact failures they themselves embody, with such dramatic force that even judges, therapists, and police officers are deceived. You've seen the sleeping with the enemy phenomenon, the woman who calls every man in her life toxic, emotionally unavailable, or abusive, yet dates a guy who hits her, cheats on her, and calls her a bitch in public. She'll tell you he's passionate and real, while the quiet, stable provider is boring and controlling. This isn't confusion, this is projection inversion, a defense mechanism so refined it borders on art. She projects her own emotional instability, neediness, and cruelty onto the men who reject her chaos, while rewarding the men who mirror her dysfunction. It's like a shoplifter accusing the store owner of theft. And yet, we've normalized this, we've given it a podium, we've called it empowerment. Hollywood knows the truth, even if it pretends not to. Gone Girl, a film that lays bare female psychopathy, manipulation, and the weaponization of victimhood, was instantly branded misogynistic by feminist critics. Why? Because it dared to show what every red-pilled man already knows, that a woman, when scorned and ignored, will burn the world down to make a man suffer. She'll fake a pregnancy, stage a suicide, frame her husband for murder, all to punish him for losing interest. But instead of studying the film as a psychological case study in female pathology, the left screamed misogyny and buried it under virtue signaling. The truth is too sharp. It cuts through the lie of female innocence like a scalpel. So what's the antidote? The mirror test. Next time a woman calls you toxic, emotionally stunted, or abusive, ask yourself, would I accept this behavior from another man? If your brother, father, or best friend acted this way, ignoring your texts, ghosting you, cheating, lying, manipulating, would you defend them? Or would you tell them to grow up? Yet when a woman does it, we're expected to apologize, seek therapy, and pay her alimony. The double standard isn't just unfair, it's fatal. Men are committing suicide at 4 times the rate of women, not because they're emotionally repressed, but because they've been gaslit into guilt for simply existing as men. Let's talk facts, real ones, not the propaganda fed to you by feminist academics. David Buss and David Schmidt's 1993 Sexual Strategies Theory, one of the most robust studies in evolutionary psychology, found that women pursue short-term mating strategies just as strategically as men, especially during peak fertility. But while men are shamed as players or toxic, women are celebrated as independent or liberated for the same behavior. This isn't equality, this is genocentric hypocrisy, and it's killing men's souls. We're told to respect women while women are free to devalue, discard, and destroy men with impunity. Karen Horney spoke of womb envy, men's unconscious jealousy of women's reproductive power. Nonsense. The real envy is womb resentment, the unconscious female resentment of male competence, strength, and independence. When a woman cannot dominate a man emotionally, she seeks to diminish him through accusation, guilt, or public shaming. It's not admiration, it's sabotage. And it's baked into the feminist worldview. If men are toxic, then women are victims. If men are privileged, then women are oppressed. It's a zero-sum game where female superiority requires male degradation. Look at Me Too, the so-called movement that exposed sexual harassment, but in reality exposed female projection on a mass scale. Women accused men of creepiness, while their own Instagrams were filled with bikini pics, nude leaks, and sexually aggressive DMs. One high-profile case involved a woman who claimed she was traumatized by a man who complimented her dress, while her Twitter feed showed her soliciting sex from strangers. The double standard is not just obvious, it's ludicrous, yet the media treated her as a saint and him as a criminal. This isn't justice. This is theater, a morality play written by women, directed by feminists, and funded by the state. And let's not forget the data, the kind that keeps men awake at night. FBI statistics show that women initiate 65% of domestic violence incidents, yet 93% of restraining orders are issued against men. How? Because when a woman slaps a man, it's self-defense. When a man defends himself, it's abuse. Police are trained to assume the man is the aggressor, no questions asked. I've seen men arrested for saying, "I'm leaving you," because their wives screamed, "He's going to kill me." It's not law enforcement, it's gynocentric mob rule. I've spoken to men who lost their kids, their homes, their life savings because a woman lied in court. One man told me, "I didn't hit her, I didn't yell, I just stopped chasing her. And for that, I was treated like a criminal." This is the reality beneath the myth of female innocence. There is no innocence. There is only strategy. And until men wake up, until they stop internalizing guilt, stop apologizing for being men, and start applying the mirror test, we will continue to feed the machine that grinds us into dust. I've spent years dissecting the wreckage of modern relationships, not from a lab, but from the trenches, watching good men bankrupted emotionally and financially by the myth that love is earned through service. I used to believe it too, that if you were kind, consistent, and generous, a woman would reciprocate with loyalty and affection. But the data, the stories, the raw evolutionary mechanics screaming from every dating app timeline, they all converge on one brutal truth: you are not dating women. You are being tested by an algorithm of hypergamy masked as romance. And the moment I stopped seeing generosity as virtue and started seeing it as vulnerability, that was the day I began to understand the game. The generosity trap, how women weaponize altruism to test and exploit men. Nice guys finish last isn't a bitter pickup artist slogan. It's an evolutionary field report. I watched a man I know, a decent fellow with a six-figure job and a gym routine, spend 80 on a first date. Dinner, drinks, valet parking, even a rose. 2 days later, she told a mutual friend, "He's sweet but too easy." I need someone more challenging, not kind, not generous, not loyal, challenging. Translation: she doesn't want a partner, she wants a puppet with resistance so she can feel like she's conquered something. You're not being courted, you're being auditioned. And generosity is not the entrance fee to love. It's the entrance exam for servitude. Scroll through any women-run Reddit thread, like Our Relationships or Our Ask Women, and you'll find the unfiltered truth behind the gynocentric propaganda. Women openly discuss using micro-requests. "Can you grab me a drink? Could you help me move this weekend?" Not as favors, but as behavioral tests. They're not seeing if you're kind, they're mapping your compliance. One woman wrote, "If he doesn't jump at small things, he won't provide later." Another bragged, "I test men with little demands. If they say no, I'm out." This isn't dating, this is a provisioning trial. And if you pass, the reward isn't gratitude, it's escalation. The next test, paying for dinner. Then the trip, then the rent, then the child support after she divorces you, after you've already proven you'll give everything. Let's be brutally honest, women are hypergamous by biological design. Like peahens selecting peacocks with the flashiest tails, women scan for status, strength, and scarcity, not generosity. Generosity is assumed. It's the table stakes, but it's never the winning hand. Nature doesn't reward the provider. It rewards the protector, the leader, the rare. And when a higher status male appears, whether in wealth, power, or dominance, the generous beta is discarded like a used napkin. I've seen men pour thousands into relationships, only to be ghosted the moment a celebrity trainer or crypto bro shows interest. One man spent $5,000 on dates, gifts, and trips, only for her to dump him and post on Instagram, "I don't need a man to provide for me." The lie is the performance, the truth: she didn't want independence. She wanted a better provider. This is the provisioning mirage, the delusion that love is earned through service. It isn't. Love, real respect, desire, loyalty is earned through value, not volume. You are not a vending machine to be fed attention and cash in exchange for affection. You are a fortress, and no woman worth her salt respects a fortress that opens its gates to every beggar. I once advised a friend to stop buying coffee for his female coworker, but it's just coffee, he said. I replied, and it's just the first step in the altruism funnel: small favors, emotional investment, financial dependency, then abandonment. He scoffed. 6 months later, she expected him to drive her to the airport at 5 a.m., pay for her Uber when he dropped her off, and lend her $300 for emergencies. When he said no, she accused him of being toxic and reported him to HR. The funnel had closed and he was now the villain. The coffee test is real, and it's not about caffeine, it's about observation. Women watch whether a man buys coffee for a friend, not because they care about his kindness, but because they're calculating his provisioning potential. If he spends freely on others, they assume he'll spend freely on them, and they begin the investment. But here's the punchline. If she won't buy her own coffee on a date, she will never respect yours, period. I've seen men spend hundreds on dates while the woman orders the most expensive item and refuses to split the check. Then when he asks to split a 5 coffee later, she calls him cheap. This isn't inconsistency. It's interrogation. She's not testing your wallet. She's testing your spine. The data doesn't lie. OkCupid's published research shows women respond to 15% of messages from men earning under 50K, but 82% from men earning over 10,000. This isn't about kindness, it's status. A man giving away his last dollar to a woman pulling in 6 figures will be ignored. A man making 200K who refuses to cover a 10 lunch will be chased with fierce interest. Giving without rank is disposable to hypergamy. What they seek isn't empathy, it's command over wealth. And let's talk about the ultimate fraud. The woman who drains your bank account, then parades her independence on social media. I know a man who spent $200 on 3 dates, dinner, cocktails, even a concert ticket. She broke up with him, then posted, "I don't need a man to provide for me. I'm a strong, independent woman." Meanwhile, her DMs were full of men she was testing for the next provisioning cycle. The performance of female empowerment is the greatest con in modern dating. They don't want equality, they want asymmetry, your resources, their freedom. This isn't theory, this is war. The altruism funnel is a weaponized pipeline. Small favors, emotional investment, financial dependency, abandonment. I've mapped this from real dating app timelines, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, where women initiate with "Can you help me with something?" and escalate to "My phone bill is due within 14 days. One man documented the progression. Day 1, "Can you grab me a drink?" Day 5, "My car broke down. Can you lend me 200? Day 12, "I'm stressed. Can I stay at your place?" Day 18, radio silence. The funnel is complete. The resource is extracted. The man is discarded. You are not here to be used. You are here to lead. And leadership begins with boundaries. Stop rewarding female failure. Stop funding the delusion that women deserve endless second chances, endless resources, endless forgiveness for behavior that would get any man blacklisted. The suicide rate for men is rising. The rate of false domestic violence accusations is soaring. Fathers are jailed for missing child support payments they can't afford, while mothers abort children without consulting the father, then demand lifelong payments for the ones they keep. This isn't justice. This isn't equality. This is predation disguised as progress. Break the spell. Stop being the generous fool. Lock the value. Demand investment. Respect is not given. It's earned. And if she won't buy her own coffee, she won't respect your life. The world doesn't need more nice guys. It needs wise men. Men who understand that love is not a reward for service, but a prize for strength. Wake up. The mirage is fading. The trap is sprung. Now step out. I saw this pattern not just in Robert's marriage, but in dozens of men I've interviewed, from software engineers to MMA fighters, who kept recounting the same surreal experience. They're women forgetting events they'd later prove they remembered. It dawned on me, memory in relationships isn't about recall, it's about control. And the moment a man apologizes for her forgotten birthday, he's not showing empathy, he's surrendering sovereignty. This isn't oversight, it's overwatch. The forgotten date, how women manipulate memory to control and punish men. I forgot. 3 words more destructive than any nuclear arsenal, more corrosive than acid, more manipulative than any Kremlin spy. I once knew a man, call him Robert, who remembered every anniversary, every birthday, every 6 months since our first kiss, like it was etched into his DNA by the hand of God himself. His wife, Claire, would fumble for the date, pretend to check her phone, and then say, "Oh my God, I completely forgot," with the wounded look of a betrayed dove. 10 years of this. 10 years of forgotten dates, forgotten promises, forgotten commitments, all while he planned candlelit dinners, bought gifts, sent reminders, and apologized like a whipped dog. Then, during a house renovation, he found her old laptop, password cracked, calendar open. Every date, every event. Every anniversary, meticulously logged, color-coded, categorized. She hadn't forgotten she was testing. Testing his loyalty, testing his subservience, testing whether he'd crawl, grovel, and apologize for her failure. This is not love, this is warfare, and women have been waging it silently, systematically, for generations. A TikTok trend went viral last year, women proudly declaring, "I forgot our anniversary on purpose to see if he'd make it up to me. Not I was busy, not I slipped up on purpose." They wear it like a badge of honor. If he doesn't plan something better, it means he doesn't care. This isn't a romantic gesture, it's a loyalty interrogation. It's the emotional equivalent of waterboarding with rose petals, and the media glorifies it. Remember the film He's Just Not That Into You, a cinematic monument to feminist propaganda, disguised as romantic advice. The entire premise is that women interpret any male behavior, lack of texting, missed calls, even breathing, as proof of disinterest. But when a woman forgets a date, it's never framed as disinterest. It's framed as "he should have reminded me." It's never her fault, it's always his. The film never asks, what if she forgot because she doesn't care? No, that would shatter the gynocentric illusion. The illusion that women are pure, passive, emotional saints, while men are bumbling oafs who must constantly prove their worthiness to breathe the same air. I call this the memory mirage, the lie that love is measured by memory, that if you truly care, you'll remember every date, every word, every insignificant detail. But this is a trap, a control mechanism. Men are conditioned from boyhood to believe that remembering anniversaries is a moral duty, while women are absolved by biology. Oh, she's just bad with dates. No, she's not bad with dates. She's weaponizing forgetfulness. And when she forgets, and you remind her, and then you apologize for her failure, that's the blame inversion matrix in action. She forgets, you remind, she feels hurt that you didn't make it special, you apologize, she wins. It's psychological judo, and it's taught in the secret curriculum of femininity, the one passed down from mother to daughter like a cursed heirloom. I once had a friend, let's call him David, who planned a surprise weekend getaway for his girlfriend's birthday. Flights booked, hotel reserved. Surprise party with her closest friends. He didn't tell her a thing. The morning of, she texts, "Sorry, I can't make it. I forgot I had plans." He was stunned. What plans? She didn't answer, just sent a sad face emoji. When he expressed disappointment, she replied, "You're too sensitive." Classic gaslighting. She knew about the trip, she just chose to cancel it on purpose to test whether he'd accept her dominance, and when he pushed back, she pathologized his reaction, turned his justified anger into a character flaw. This is not rare, this is routine. And it's rooted in what I call covert contracting, the practice of setting unspoken expectations, then punishing men for failing to meet them. You're not allowed to ask, you're not allowed to clarify. You're supposed to know. And when you don't, that's when the punishment begins. A 2021 study in evolution and human behavior, peer-reviewed, rigorous, unassailable, found that women are 40% more likely than men to forget social obligations when they wish to avoid commitment. 40%. Not due to disorganization, not due to being overwhelmed, but because forgetting is a tactical move. It's a way to maintain plausible deniability while still asserting control. I forgot is the multi-tool of feminine influence, versatile, compact, and highly effective. It enables her to withdraw affection, cancel plans, and punish you, all while preserving an image of innocence. And men, shaped by 2,500 years of female-centered narratives from Aristotle to Disney, react not with resistance but with guilt. We apologize for her lapse. We adjust our schedules. We push ourselves harder. We bind ourselves to reminders and planners, while she retains the freedom to ignore obligations whenever she chooses. Here's the calendar rule. If she doesn't put it in writing, it doesn't exist. No verbal agreements, no "I'll remember," no "it's in my head." If it's not in a shared digital calendar, with reminders set, it's not real. And if she refuses, that's your first red flag. That's her rejecting accountability. That's her preserving the right to forget and punish you later. I've implemented this rule in my life. Shared Google Calendar. All dates logged. Reminders set 24 hours in advance. And guess what? The forgetting stopped. Coincidence? No. She lost her weapon. The power play collapsed. And like a spoiled child denied candy, she initially threw a tantrum. You don't trust me. No, I don't, and I shouldn't. Trust must be earned. And when trust is used as a weapon, it must be dismantled. This isn't about memory, it's about power. It's about the silent war women wage against male autonomy, using guilt, shame, and false victimhood as their artillery. And we've been losing because we keep playing by their rules. We apologize for their failures. We internalize their neglect. We blame ourselves for their cruelty. But the truth is written in blood in family courts, where fathers are stripped of their children for daring to speak truth. In suicide rates where men die at 3.5x the rate of women because they're told their pain doesn't matter. In divorce statistics where women initiate 70% of breakups yet paint themselves as victims. Wake up. The system is rigged. And I forgot is one of its most insidious weapons. Stop rewarding female failure. Stop apologizing for her forgetfulness. Start demanding accountability. Or remain a fool, loving a ghost, chasing a mirage, dying for a lie. I used to believe women were angels, truth-tellers, moral compasses, until I found myself on the divorce battlefield, 150,000 lighter, my children's faces blurred by court-ordered restrictions. All because I dared to question a lie. I was the fool who bought coffee, remembered birthdays, carried her emotional baggage like a knight bearing a holy relic, only to be branded toxic when I finally said enough. And I'm not alone in America. 58% of fathers lose access to their kids after divorce, while women initiate 70% of breakups yet paint themselves as victims. The family court system isn't justice. It's a gynocentric tribunal where men are convicted before they speak, where alimony and child support are weapons, not remedies. Wake up. The average divorce costs a man $14,500 in legal fees per year, and that's if he wins. But here's the punchline. 92% of child custody goes to mothers, even when evidence shows fathers are equally or more capable. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, to extract, enslave, and erase the father. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, biology. Sperm is cheap, eggs are expensive. That asymmetry forged evolution's brutal calculus. Women hold the reproductive reins, so they evolve to test, screen, and discard. They don't seek love, they seek leverage, the coffee test. It's not generosity, it's a stress test for future provisioning. The forgotten anniversary, not forgetfulness. It's a power drill to see if you'll crawl. And when you do, she posts on Instagram, independent woman who needs no man, while sipping the latte you bought. The data doesn't lie. 12% of children in Western nations are genetically fatherless. Cuckoldry is a national pastime, yet men are shamed for demanding paternity tests. Meanwhile, abortion rates soar over 900,000 per year in the US, not as tragic choice, but as strategic reproductive control. Women aren't oppressed, they're overprotected, overindulged, and overpowered by a system that lets them have sex, money, kids, and walk away blameless. And when men finally break, when they stop playing the game, the establishment calls it toxic masculinity, a label forged in the hell forge of cultural Marxism to pathologize male strength. But here's the truth they've buried. You are not the problem. The problem is the lie, the centuries-old con that says women are pure, men are beasts, and sacrifice is virtue. That lie killed chivalry, castrated fatherhood, and turned marriage into a legal trap. But you've seen through it. You've heard the stories, felt the logic, tasted the betrayal. And now you're armed. With the trivium, you dissect lies like a surgeon. With the transcendentals, you rebuild what's good, true, and beautiful. You don't buy coffee until she invests. You don't apologize for her forgetfulness. You walk. You don't fear being called misogynist when you speak facts, because truth isn't hate, it's liberation. The red pill isn't bitter. It's the first honest taste you've had in years. So go forth, teach your sons. Save your brothers. Laugh at the witch trials disguised as women's rights. And when the next blue-pilled boy whines, but love is real, look him in the eye and say, so is gravity. But you don't jump off cliffs to test it. And now the sponsored book introduction, Life is Competition. Stop rewarding female failure. They called you weak for caring, while they destroyed everything you loved. You believed in loyalty. you believed in honor, you believed in love. And every time those beliefs were used against you, like a knife slipped between your ribs by someone you trusted, you gave second chances, you forgave betrayal, you tried to be kind, to be fair, to be decent. And still, you were punished, not because you did wrong, but because you refused to play their game. This book is not for everyone, it is not for the deluded, it is not for the brainwashed. It is not for women who will scream misogyny without reading a single page. It is not for men who still believe that fairness wins, that empathy disarms evil, or that love conquers all. This book is for the man who has bled, the man who has been lied to, cheated on, discarded, slandered, abandoned, not once, but repeatedly by women who wore innocence like a mask and cruelty like a crown. I know that man. I am that man. I was raised to believe in virtue. I was taught that strength meant protecting the weak, that courage meant standing for truth, that honor meant keeping your word even when it cost you everything. I lived that way. I paid for it. I lost relationships, money, reputation, and peace, not to monsters with horns, but to women who smiled while they stabbed. I watched as compassion became my prison, as empathy became my executioner. As kindness was twisted into a confession of guilt, I was punished for seeing the best in people, while predators were rewarded for seeing only what they could take. I spent years in silence, confused, angry, broken. Then I studied. I read biology, anthropology, psychology, philosophy, law, history. I dissected the data, I followed the patterns, and I found the truth. This is not an accident. It is not bad luck. It is not isolated cases. It is a system, one built on emotional asymmetry, legal privilege, media propaganda, and evolutionary strategy. Women are not evil by nature, but modern culture has unleashed their most destructive instincts while silencing male self-defense. And men who still believe in chivalry are being slaughtered in the moral marketplace. This book exposes the compassion trap, the deliberate exploitation of male virtue by those who feel no obligation to return it. It names the betrayal economy, where lies are currency and trust is the exit fee. It unmasks the empathy fraud, the lie that women are more emotionally intelligent when in fact they dominate in social manipulation. It dismantles the maternal myth, the sacred cow that lets women commit atrocities and still claim moral immunity. It reveals the legal asymmetry where men are presumed guilty, women are presumed victims, and justice is dead. It shows how education collapses when boys are punished for masculinity while girls are rewarded for drama. It exposes the workplace war, where competence is secondary to victim status. It tears open the romantic lie that love is mutual, when in reality it is often a power play. And it confronts the red pill reality. If you do not defend yourself, no one will. Not the courts, not society, not the woman you adore. She will abandon you the moment you become inconvenient. And the system will cheer her on. This is not theory, this is battle-tested truth. I have lived it. I have lost everything, and from the wreckage I rebuilt, not on sentiment, but on logic, evidence, and the timeless wisdom of the West. This book is a field manual. It is for men who are done being prey, men who want to reclaim strength without becoming monsters, men who want to protect their minds, their wealth, their freedom, and their future. If you are a man who has been betrayed by a woman, slandered by a lover, ruined by a divorce, or silenced by social pressure, this book is your weapon. It will not comfort you with lies. It will not tell you to heal or forgive. While your enemies grow fat on your suffering, it will show you the battlefield. It will name the enemies. It will give you the tools to survive and to win. If you're not that man, if you still believe in gender equality as defined by feminists, if you think toxic masculinity is the real problem, if you worship at the altar of empathy without boundaries, then close this book now, walk away. Go watch a TED Talk, scroll TikTok, attend a sensitivity training. This truth is not for you, it will offend you. It will shatter your illusions. It will make you angry, not because it is false, but because it is true. And truth is violence to the deluded. This book is not hate, it is clarity. It is the antidote to centuries of gynocentric propaganda that has inverted morality, punished virtue, and rewarded manipulation. It is the revival of the warrior code, not of conquest, but of self-preservation, discipline, and dignity. If you are ready to stop being devoured, if you want to see the game, master the game, and walk away whole, then read on. The future of men depends on it. Life is competition. Stop rewarding female failure. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now. Links in description.